Welcome everyone. This is our first Alzheimer's Awareness Month virtual happy hour. And the topic for this week is nutrition in your brain. So these events are sponsored by the University of Arizona, Arizona State University, the University of Miami, Johns Hopkins University, the Translational Genomics Research Institute, and the MindCrowd project. My name is Matt Huentelman, and I'll be the Master of Ceremonies for today's event. I'm a neuroscientist and a human genetics researcher, and my laboratory studies how the brain ages, and we explore various ways that we can prevent brain aging and protect against diseases of the aging brain, like Alzheimer's disease. My lab is based at TGen in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm also the lead scientist for the MindCrowd project. Many of you may know MindCrowd. It is an internet-based study of the brain that anyone can join as long as they are 18 years or older. And our study site for MindCrowd can be found at mindcrowd.org. So the format for today's event is as follows. First, I will give some background about the aging brain and Alzheimer's disease, and then I'll introduce tonight's speaker. The presentation from tonight's speaker will last approximately 20 minutes or so. And during the presentation, you should feel free to ask questions using the Q&A function in Zoom. So there's a button there that you can click and ask your question to us. We do want you to note that all of the video and microphone functions for today's guests are disabled. So the only way we can take your questions is through the question and answer function in Zoom. So after the presentation, tonight's speaker and a few other panelists will happily answer your questions for about 20 minutes, and then we'll wrap up the event. So we will finish at the top of the hour. At this point, in my presentation, someone from our team is just going to send a welcome message to the Q&A function in Zoom so everyone can see how it works. Okay, so I'm going to get started with just a few slides about Alzheimer's disease and the aging brain. First, I wanted to just talk about what our audience is for tonight. So we've had almost 200 people register for this event from 36 different US states and territories. People between the ages of 18 to 49 make up about 15% of our audience tonight. 50 to 79-year-olds are 75%, and then 10% of our audience is 80 years or older. So these are some of the questions that drive our research. Have you ever wondered why some of your friends seem to have better memory than you do? Have you noticed that you seem to be better at remembering certain things? Maybe you're really good with faces, or really good with remembering people's names, or maybe it's numbers. Maybe you're good with remembering numbers. Well, science in general is really interested in these differences too, because we think by understanding them, it'll help us better understand the brain. But more importantly, it'll help us understand how to avoid diseases of the brain. So it's important to remember what is Alzheimer's disease and what is not Alzheimer's disease. First, Alzheimer's disease is not a normal part of getting older. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean that you will get Alzheimer's disease. In fact, over the age of 65, only around 15% of people have dementia or Alzheimer's disease. So it's important to realize that forgetting where your keys are or blanking on someone's name, that's not Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is significant memory or behavior changes that impact your daily life. So we all forget someone's name every now and then. We all forget where we left our keys. That is not Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease affects your daily life. But Alzheimer's disease is a big concern for this country. in the world. It's the 6th leading cause of death in the United States, and there are an estimated more than 5 million Americans living with Alzheimer's disease today. It also exacts a massive toll on the family, with an estimation of over 16 million family caregivers who are oftentimes completely unpaid. It's also important to note that some of our most underserved communities, like Latinos and Black and African Americans, are at increased risk for Alzheimer's disease. So just briefly, I wanted to catch you up to speed about what we currently know about Alzheimer's disease. First, we can see changes in the brain at Alzheimer's disease at death. And the changes that we see are shown here. First, we see that brain cells die. So we have less brain cells in the Alzheimer's disease patient when they die. Importantly, these connections between the brain cells are also lost. So brain cells like to talk to each other using specific chemicals in the brain. In the Alzheimer's disease brain, those connections are lost, and that causes the cells to die. Also, under the microscope, we can see these characteristic changes in the brain that are called neuropathologies. And what those are more often referred to is the Alzheimer's plaques and tangles. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that it seems, to our best estimates, it takes around 15 to 20 years for Alzheimer's disease to progress to that point where you have memory problems and you start to complain to your doctor, or your loved one drags you to the doctor and says there's something wrong with his or her memory. So if you think about that, it takes 15 to 20 years for Alzheimer's disease to develop. That's a little bit scary, because depending on your age today, it could be starting in your brain today. But it's also really exciting because it gives us a chance to intervene during that period of time and perhaps prevent the disease altogether. This is an area of research that science is really focused on right now, preventing Alzheimer's disease. Oftentimes people ask, what can I do to lower my risk and improve the health of my brain? First, you have to realize that your risk for Alzheimer's disease is probably 75% genetic and about 25% non-genetic. Now, the genetic things we can't do anything about. You were born with your genetics and you can't change it. So let's focus a little bit on the 25% of non-genetic things that we can do that could improve our brain health and could help prevent Alzheimer's disease. They're listed here in this slide. Exercise has been shown to be really important for the health of your brain. The recommendations are listed there: 150 minutes of aerobic exercise, walking briskly, jogging, cycling each week. But also don't forget about your muscle strength. It's important to improve the strength of your muscles as well. That helps your bones and in general helps your body. So it's recommended to strength train a couple times a week. Pay attention to your diet and nutrition, and we're going to talk about this tonight. Be social. Socialize with your friends. One of our challenges right now due to the coronavirus is how do we remain social while we still remain physically distanced from our friends. Manage, or better yet, entirely avoid other diseases. So if you have another disease, you want to make sure you're treating that disease under the guidance of your physician. Sleep is very important. Getting good sleep. The recommendation for adults is between 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. And one that's near and dear to our heart is participate in research. The more that we understand about you and others like you, the better we can do with our public health suggestions and our medical care decisions that are based in science. But really the take-home message is if you have a healthy body, if you do things that are known to be healthy for your body, it usually results in a healthy brain. So when you're making those decisions and you're wondering, is this good for my brain? If the answer is, well, I know it's good for my body, then it's probably a good choice for your brain. All right, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to tonight's speaker, Dr. Tomas Nuño. He's a research assistant professor in the Department of Emergency Medicine, and he has a joint appointment in the Division of Public Health Practice and Translational Research in the College of Public Health at the University of Arizona. Dr. Nuño conducts research on chronic disease disparities among underserved populations. And one of his particular research areas of interest includes cardiovascular disease and diabetes prevention among the Hispanic populations in the US. And he's going to talk to us tonight and share a great cooking demonstration about nutrition in your brain. Dr. Nuño, take it away.
Thank you very much, Matt, for that introduction. Let me start sharing my slides here. Well, thank you again, Matt, for the introduction. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you all that are attending this webinar presentation. I welcome you. I'm making the presentation from our kitchen, where we'll have our food demonstration in a little bit. Again, my name is Tomas Nuño. I'm a chronic disease prevention researcher. I really focus on preventing chronic disease. That's my focus, that's my passion. I'm going to advance the slides here. Okay, there we go. So a little bit more about me, general roles. I'm a father, husband, family member, just all the different roles I try to do my best at. And one thing, I do love my meals. I love to eat. I've always loved it since I was a child. The actual food, the social part of it, the family get-togethers, the friend get-togethers, birthday parties, the cultural part of it, the different types of meals, growing up eating different types of foods, different types of get-togethers. I remember being a child eating at my grandmother's house every Sunday. Was always a big get-together. Different big meals at different events. Turkey with all the fixings at Thanksgiving, tamales at Christmas time. So a big mix of all the different types of foods, both that probably are good for you and not good for you. And that tends to go into the phases of my life in terms of the food. When I was probably growing up, my mother cooked for us, and we both ate at home. It was McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's were a treat. As I grew up, we ate at home a lot and very fresh home cooked meals. When I went off to college into my late teens and 20s, I would say wasn't much of a chef myself, and probably the idea of cooking for me was a frozen dinner or a TV dinner or cereal for breakfast. When you get into your 30s and 40s, going on in life, marriage and kids and work, and so you see yourself suddenly, I consider myself sort of maybe athletic shape growing up, but so little by little you start adding weight. So I reached a point where I hit my, I would say I was about 60 pounds over my ideal weight, and worse than that, all of my numbers looked bad. I was pre-diabetes, high triglycerides, high bad cholesterol, low good cholesterol. So it made a change, and what the change I made was changing my diet along with my wife and family. We looked at meals, and we a lot of the things we talk about here is what's in my usual daily diet. And this little picture here shows a 2-year difference. So from maybe July of 2016 at the bottom till November of 2018 on top, and to where I am today, we've been able to maintain. And more than the weight loss is the feeling and the numbers, what they look like. So normal blood glucose level, normal triglycerides, normal cholesterol levels. So everything, all the lipid profile has improved so much. And it's all from nutrition, from changing my diet, because I probably kept up my exercise or physical, going to the gym as the same or maybe even less. So changing my diet made all the difference. In terms of diet and Alzheimer's, so the Alzheimer's Association has a statement on nutrition. Proper nutrition is important to keep the body strong and healthy, so very general. But for a person with Alzheimer's or dementia, poor nutrition may increase behavioral symptoms and cause weight loss. That's a little bit opposite of my experience. But when I talk about prevention and when you think about losing weight and getting healthier, maybe later stages of Alzheimer's, you have to worry about losing weight and losing health that way. And there's lots of research done on nutrition in the aging brain. There's extensive evidence that supports the relationship between diet and cognitive functions. And there's accumulating evidence that the combinations of food and nutrients may act synergistically to provide stronger benefits than those conferred by the individual dietary components. So it's all these things that are going synergistically in different types of good foods that provide the health benefit to us rather than just one single component. And there is research to try to find that type of component in different types of studies. But a lot of the research shows that it's the combinations. And in terms of a couple of specific types of dietary patterns, there's higher adherence to the Mediterranean dietary pattern is associated with decreased cognitive decline and incident Alzheimer's disease. And also the dietary approach to stop hypertension, the DASH diet, also has neuroprotective actions. These are diets that, as Matt said, we can intervene in that phase where we can make a difference before it advances to Alzheimer's disease. In terms of the aging process, I want to show this graph because what I mentioned there, intervening, and we want to intervene where all along our aging process, where we have these oxidative stresses and different types of inflammation processes. All along there is where a proper nutrition, proper diet can make a difference and prevent diagnoses of dementia or moving on to Alzheimer's disease. So the different types of foods that can make a difference in those. In the Mediterranean dietary pattern, there's lots of different types of foods, and I have several listed here. Olive oil as a main source of fat, fresh fruits and whole vegetables, nuts, whole grains, minimally processed food, frequent fish consumption, and red meat in moderation, water, eggs as a source of protein. Wine in moderation with meals, very low sweets and cakes and dairies only on occasion, moderate portion size, moderate physical activity, and meals in the company of others. So it also gives not only a eating guide, the actual meal, but the process as well in terms of making a meal enjoyable and sort of an event. The DASH, not quite as many points, but a lot of similarities, eating vegetables and fruits and whole grains, fat-free or low-fat dairy products, fish and poultry, beans, nuts, and vegetable oils. So limiting foods that are high in saturated fats, such as fatty meats and full-fat dairy products, and oils such as coconut, palm, and kernel oils, and limiting sugar, sweetened beverage consumption, and sweets. So those are the different things. So what would just a healthy meal look like? A plate, say a healthy plate. So it'd be portioned. It'd be a nice plate that's not too big and not too small, so a nice portion meal, but with a variety of foods, so a variety of colors. So it'd be a meal with a minimum processed foods. So you'd want to have natural and as much as natural as possible. And you want to have what I call the 3 Gs, the good vegetables, good fats, and good carbohydrates. As far as drinking, I myself prefer to drink water with my different meals. And you want to minimize sugar and salt. But note that in later stages of Alzheimer's disease, if loss of appetite is a problem, adding sugar to foods may encourage to eat a meal that would be, for the most part, healthy, but it needs to add that sugar so to encourage the eating. So now I have just a few examples of the different types of good vegetables. So the vegetables, in terms of the cruciferous and leafy green vegetables, these vegetables are our power food, rich in vitamins, minerals, fiber, and phytochemicals. So the different types: broccoli, spinach, lettuce, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, kale, radish, tomatoes. These are just some examples, but if it's cruciferous and leafy green, these are foods that we can just eat and they're good for us. So we can eat them in good amounts, they'll provide us with rich sources of vitamins and minerals and the different phytochemicals that, again, the phytochemicals are ones that individually we've tried to study them in terms of, like, say, randomized control trials, and like if that individual chemical or that individual, like, say, beta carotene or ginkgo or something, that makes a difference. But we find that more the health effect is when they're eaten in these synergistic ways of the different types of healthy products, healthy vegetables. We call it good fats. So these are monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. These are as opposed to saturated fats or trans fats. So these fats actually, even though fats get a bad reputation, these are the good fats. These are the fats that actually the studies show lower the bad cholesterol, maybe help improve the good cholesterol. Polyunsaturated fats, the omega-3s, have some studies showing effects of helping to improve memory cognition. So these are the fats that are good for us, and some examples of those are olive and canola and peanut and sesame oils, avocados, nuts, the fatty fish. So these are polyunsaturated omega-3s and the fatty fish, and lean cuts of meats. The leaner the better, and more in terms of like say chicken and turkey as opposed to red meats as well. What I call my good carbohydrates. So these are high in fiber and high in antioxidants. So when I show that graph, we had what we fight the oxidative stress and fighting inflammation. What fights off the oxidative stress are the antioxidants, and these are found in whole fruits, especially in berries. Berries are some of the best things you can eat. Blueberries, strawberries, these are all the best types of fruits. Any type of whole fruit would be good for you. But the ones that say the lower glycemic index are even better. Well, the ones with the higher glycemic with more sugar are still good for you. It's hard to overeat, say, apples and oranges. Say if you wanted to eat 5 apples, it'd be very difficult with all the fiber they have. Maybe you would get through 2. But when we have juicers and you juice 5 apples, say, and you can drink that really easy, you get all the sugar without the benefit of the fiber and the other things that are left out when you juice the product. So recommendation is to eat the whole fruits, whole grains, whole beans, and vegetables. Again, vegetables are superfood coming out as good carbohydrates, as well as are good vegetables. So yeah, so vegetables overall are the best types of foods you can eat. So some final thoughts in terms of just the foods that are good for you. And I've said it's been on some of the slides, but you want to minimize sugar and processed foods. For myself, in my own personal experience, I've found that minimizing sugar, cutting out as much of the extra sweets, and cutting out the processed foods made a huge difference. When I did a dietary inventory of what I was eating to start making the diet change, I saw that I was eating French fries or potato chips every day for lunch without fail. So when I cut that out, made a big difference. Also minimizing sugar in terms of sweetened drinks. I used to drink soda, then I switched to diet soda. Now I cut both those out. It was a little tough because maybe the caffeine angle, but now I have water with about every meal. Every now and then a treat of say a Sprite or something every few months, or maybe chocolate milk every few months. In terms of chocolate, dark chocolate has very high antioxidants. Wasn't listed in one of those, but dark chocolate does have antioxidants that are also helpful to reduce the oxidative stress in our bodies. The issue with dark chocolate is being careful how much you eat. If you eat a whole bar, the amount of calories and saturated fat you would eat could be more issues as well. But if you say a couple of small cubes a day, it can be very, very helpful. I myself eat about 2 or 3 little cubes of dark chocolate every day. Eggs were listed in the Mediterranean diet, but I find them as a very filling breakfast meal, very high vitamins and choline and different minerals and just good for us. They, in spite of the reputation they get in terms of high cholesterol. So in my yearly blood work, I see that even though I eat eggs several times a day, it hasn't been adversely affected my cholesterol levels. And in my talk, I haven't mentioned protein at all, but I've focused more on carbs and fats, because if you eat well, different types of fats and carbs, the protein will be in those types of meals, so in the lean meats or the different types of foods you eat. I find that I get the amount of protein I need by focusing on those. So even though it is a macronutrient, I myself focus more on the fats and carbohydrates. And I have this I saw this recently, this comic strip. So it's a little avocado walking down the street, and what's the donut saying? Well, if it isn't Mr. I don't need to work out because I'm the good kind of fat. And this is just actually a little preview for a week from today. We're going to have our session on physical activity. So physical activity, nutrition, both of those go into that oxidative stress and inflammation reduction. And they work, again, not only foods working synergistically, but as well as physical activity working synergistically. And actually the avocado doesn't have that bad of an idea. Walking is one of the best things you can do. I myself, we try to walk 30 minutes a day. We walk the dogs as much as possible. They love it. They get all excited. But walking is great if you don't have access to the gym, or maybe you can work out at home. And then I think next week we'll also show the demonstration will be on things that can be done at home. And one last point on that strip, which is there's so much in this strip, there's no way to out-exercise a bad diet. So if you're eating those French fries and donuts and cupcakes and cookies and bacon every single day, you're not going to be able to out-exercise that diet. So even though they're trying really hard there, on an occasional treat, absolutely. I myself, it was a National Donut Day recently. Didn't get one, but thought about it. But every now and then, a cookie, something. It's very, very, food can be flavorful and it can be enjoyable. Certain stuff we have to eat in moderation or minimize it, but other stuff can be still flavorful, and we eat as much as we can eat more of it. And that's some of the, well, actually that leads us into the today's cooking demo. So hopefully today we have a nice flavorful demonstration for you. We call it pollo con verduras, frijoles, tortilla de maíz, fresas y agua. So chicken with vegetables, pinto beans, corn tortillas, strawberries, and water. It's a very colorful meal, very well portioned. This is part of a recipe actually from a cookbook that we gave to some of our patients, that some of our participants in our studies that are trying to prevent complications from diabetes. So for those that already had diabetes, trying to eat healthier, but it's also for prevention of other diseases if you don't have diabetes, trying to prevent the other Alzheimer's disease. Healthy meal, as Matt said, healthy body equal to healthy mind. So that's my little slideshow. And let me share let me stop screen sharing. Let's see if you all can see me. Am I visible to you? I can get. I see the MindCrowd screen as the big one, but. Let's see here.
We can see you, Tomas.
Okay, excellent. I just wanted, because it's not on the big screen. So let me introduce my family here. So you've heard from me a lot, but let me show my participants. So my wife, Dania, I don't know if she wants to come a little closer to the screen there.
Hello.
And then I have my two daughters, Selena and Yesenia. Well, they're all helping with the meal today. So as mentioned, today's meal is arroz con verduras. So the recipe calls for 2 pounds of chicken breast. We started out actually first with we washed and cleaned the vegetables, and the vegetables included broccoli, celery, and tomato. We had 2 pounds of chicken breast, which my wife has cut up already. She can show that to you here. We had 3 cups of broccoli, 1 cup of celery, and 1 medium tomato, and half a small yellow onion. So we washed and cleaned the vegetables already. We've cut the chicken breast into cubes, and we cut the broccoli into bundles, and the celery. You girls want to show the broccoli and the celery? Bring those over here, please. You want to see anything? We have the celery and the tomatoes, and our large broccoli servings. So this is actually for family of 4, but if you're a smaller amount of you, definitely it'd be some great leftovers. So right now my wife has the canola oil in the cooking pan, and it's set at medium-high heat. And she's added the garlic and the onions, and now she's added the chicken. So we have that chicken cooking there. We have that going too. That's the main course, and the other course is the pinto beans. And I think I call my wife over to talk about how you like to make pinto beans.
Tomas,
Yes.
can you tilt your screen down a little bit? And then just so you know, when you turn your face to the computer, we can't hear your voice.
Okay. Excellent. So if you could tell how you like to make the beans.
So, hello everyone. Growing up, my mom and my grandmother would sit us down in our chore as a 7 or 8-year-old would be to clean the beans. So when you get a bag of beans or you pull it out of a bundle, you can clean them first, and then they go into a pot. Now on the back of the beans, it says different ways of cooking it, but we always would boil them for about 3 hours so they cooked for a long time. And we never soaked them and they would come out good. The difference to me is your pot. There's different kinds of pot. My favorite pot is this one. It seems to work magic with the beans. So my recommendation would be to find your favorite pot. And my other recommendation would be that when you cook your beans, make sure that you start them before the rest of your food because they take a little longer to prepare.
And if I didn't mention it before, it was 2 pounds of chicken breast. So the chicken breast, the healthiest part of the chicken, the leanest, has the least saturated fat. So we have the chicken going and being mixed with the garlic and the onions. And they also are adding the pepper and salt and thyme. And it's 1 teaspoon of each, 1 teaspoon of thyme, 1 teaspoon of pepper, 1 teaspoon of salt. And once that's cooked well, we add the celery, broccoli, and tomatoes into that. And you want to bring the plate, show how it's cooking to the audience? So there we see our chicken sauteing with our onions and our tomatoes. Later on, we'll add the celery and the celery and broccoli. We're adding that now. Again, we're at our kitchen here making this meal. So they also have the corn tortillas going on the side, being made there. We actually cut out the strawberries already, so we have a little serving of strawberries. Again, berries are one of the best types of fruits you could eat. Very low glycemic, and very lots of vitamins and different types of all the different antioxidants in those in berries. Blueberries are are great for antioxidants as well. So as they're making the meal, and it's going to soon be covered and cooked on low heat for approximately 20 minutes, we actually have as that goes for 20 minutes. This is actually a product, we made it yesterday as well, so you can actually see the final product. So if I can show it into the camera. There we have our chicken with our broccoli, our pinto beans, which were made before, and our 2 corn tortillas, and then our strawberries. So this is maybe a little bit of a bigger plate, but sometimes I get a little smaller plate, but it's actually a pretty decent serving. Although I try not to count calories so much, I did for about 6 ounces of chicken breast and the accompanying broccoli and celery and pinto beans and tortillas. It's about, I would say, about 660 calories is what I calculated that out with the strawberries as well. So if you have a meal at 660 calories, that type of meal 3 times a day, you're getting close to about 1,800. What's the recommendation? Actually, in general, women over age 70, 1,600 to 2,000 calories daily. Men over age 70, about 2,000 if sedentary. If active, 2,400. And if you're younger, up the 2,000 to 2,400 to 2,800 range if you're between different ages of men and women. I think on general, a lot of the recommendations say between 2,000 and 2,500 for men and women that are below age 70. So this meal, I think, would be perfectly portioned for one of your 3 big meals a day, or if you have 2 meals a day. This might be one of them. I know my own parents like to eat 2 main-sized meals a day, and then maybe some snacks between or after. So what does this meal have? It has some very good protein in the chicken, low fat, low salt. It only has a teaspoon of salt, low natural sugar in the strawberries, good fiber in the pinto beans and broccoli, and then vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin B6, potassium, and iron, so the different types of vitamins and minerals that are in this meal. And then overall, just a healthy meal, I would say, that we can have a nice dinner and enjoy the meal. Thank you, girls.
Tomas, there's a few questions. They want to see the action. They want to get closer to the stove and see the cooking. Can you take the computer over there and show us some of the action?
Let me bring it to the. I don't shake it too much.
Build it down so we can see the we can see the stove. There we go. Yeah, okay. But it'd be good if you give us a little shots of the action every now and then. Thank you.
Want to describe it of how it's going to cook?
Sure. We're going to cover the chicken now so that the broccoli can cook nice and easy. And then my mother-in-law, when my husband and I got married, she gave me this comal. So you can see it's here, and that's where I am cooking the corn tortillas. And they're toasting nice. You can make a taco with it. It smells very good in here. If the tortillas are a little bit hard, you can add a little bit of water, like sprinkle some droplets of water, and that softens them a little bit. And that helps. And if your teeth are a little sensitive, then you want to make sure you just warm the corn tortillas and don't get them too hard, because then you're fighting with your corn tortilla while you try to eat it.
And this is, not sure if you wanted to. We got a view of them. And I think that's it as far as our demonstration. There's not foods that the food's going to cook there. It's again a different way we cut the vegetables and added them. Those are the steps, and we could provide the actual steps and recipe for this. Again, it was 2 pounds of chicken. That's how much chicken we used in this, and for a family of 4, we're able to eat that and have a little bit of leftover.
Tomas, there is a question about providing the recipe. How are you able to do that for this group?
I do have it in a Microsoft Word document, so I could provide that, yeah.
Okay. Where would we post that?
Maybe I could provide my, if one thing I could think of is maybe an email.
Okay, yeah, I can provide your email address to the.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to send this this recipe.
Okay, perfect.
That should do it for a demonstration. We're open to all the questions. So I think this is the Q&A part. We're open to questions for the demonstration and also for any presentations, I guess.
I've been trying to answer some questions as they've been coming in while you were cooking.
I do see I'm looking at my Zoom webinar chat. There's one that says, "Can you add green peppers?" Absolutely, yeah. And I'll let maybe my wife can talk a little bit about that. I might want to see it.
My husband loves to eat meat, and I like to eat more vegetables. So this calls for 3 cups of broccoli because I like the broccoli. But if you want to add green peppers or anything else, this recipe is very flexible to accommodate your different tastes. So absolutely do the green peppers.
So can you see some of the questions, Tomas?
That was the last one there. I just see there's a question about coffee and caffeine. So I'm not sure in general regarding the consumption of coffee and caffeine.
Yeah, my recommendation was that coffee and caffeine are just fine in moderation, but I admitted that sometimes I might overindulge in coffee.
Yeah, I think the moderation is one of the key points in our meal consumptions. Yeah, again, this is from actually a recipe book that we provided to some of our participants. So and with the different spices you can spice it different ways to satisfy different palates.
Tomas, I see a question for beans. Is it okay to eat canned beans?
I think yes, canned beans can be used, and they can be used. What would you say? What would be your?
I think Canned beans are okay. If you want to add some flavor to the beans, chopping up a little bit of garlic and onion will add flavor. And then a little bit of pepper and just a touch of salt. Usually the canned beans have more salt, so they don't usually need more. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, that is one of the issues with the canning process, where they might have a little bit more. Again, any other types of fruits would be good too. We just pick strawberries because berries really can't go wrong. But our family loves to eat fruit. We eat lots of. We're getting the peach and nectarine season. The girls love those. The girls love watermelons and different types of melons. Honeydew melons, those are all good. Pretty much year round, we eat apples and oranges at different times of the day. We also have a good supply of nuts in our pantry, so we have the different types of pecans, which are pistachios, very good fats, and walnuts as well. Almonds, so the different nuts have the different types of levels of fats, but they're all in moderation again as well for nuts, because they do, you could overeat them and have too many calories. But a serving, if you look at the servings, if you say you buy them prepackaged at say or Costco, you look how much a serving of nuts is and have that. So part of your day.
May I add something?
Oh, yes.
So my mother has dementia, and my brother lives with him, and he's very into healthy cooking. And my mom is accustomed to cooking as well, but she's not able to anymore because she'll sometimes forget the stove is on, or she'll not remember the full recipe. So what he does is he makes the bulk of the meal, and my mom participates by cutting some of the vegetables. Like if he makes salsa, my mom cuts the green onion and the cilantro and the garlic, and it engages her with the cooking, and it's important for her to feel that she still contributes, and then they create a meal together. So my recommendation would be to do what my brother does. That seems to be very helpful.
Can you address whether corn tortilla is better for us than whole wheat tortillas?
Corn versus, well, let's see. This is not my area of expertise, but I can tell you from taste that I'm partial to the corn tortilla. They're small, they're lighter, they're easy to hold. They do have some fiber, and they have very minimal ingredients. Whereas wheat flour tortillas, the wheat, I understand, is good for you, and it has more fiber. It depends on what kind of oil they use, or if they use shortening, because that would have some added fats. And sometimes some of the wheat tortillas that I have tasted have an aftertaste. If you can find a good wheat tortilla without an aftertaste, it seems like a better choice than a white flour tortilla.
And I think that, again, we're going to point out about this, a portion size. The corn tortilla is usually smaller, so that's in terms of portion size. So we do have some questions that I printed out beforehand, and one that seemed to be coming up is, what's the best food for brain health? I won't say there's one best food, there's a mix, and I think having vegetables as part of your daily meals, you can't go wrong with that. That's plant-based food as part of your meal. It'll have a lot of antioxidants and fiber. The berries are any types of the berries and fruits. Also, in terms of fish and meat, the omega-3s in fish, there's some types of studies that show that it does help, that they can help positive effects to the brain. So I'd say the fish, the omega-3s, rich fishy foods and vegetables and berries are among the foods that are the best for brain health.
Adjust it.
Oh, so here's the completed meal. So this is the fresh.
There it is. The broccoli's all cooked, and the tomatoes have broken down, and there's a nice juice at the bottom. All the spices, you can see the thyme and the pepper on there, and some onion. That's the finished product.
I do see a question about recommendations for how to go about meal planning. How do we do that? We definitely kind of take it day to day. I think we see what we have, and we definitely try to think in terms of what's healthy meals for us and the kids. Any other?
We seem to have, in our house, the girls seem to like, they alternate between like 4 different breakfasts and the same for their lunches and their dinner. We tend, with the pandemic, the girls tend to eat breakfast late morning, like at 10 o'clock or 11. And then they have their lunch around 3, and then they're eating dinner around 7. So I try to feed them a pretty hearty meal in the morning, and then a good lunch, and then dinner is a little bit lighter. That's how we do it. For breakfast, the difference with our kids is to provide some balance in their meals. So this morning their breakfast was, it was some beans that were part of this recipe, some fruit, and I also made them some potatoes with tomatoes and peppers and a little bit of salt and pepper, and they seem to like that. So in fact, they were competing for the potatoes.
Yeah.
But
that aren't the best for them, but every now and then they have them.
Well, and I think it's okay too because it has potassium.
The other thing I said, trying to show the different meals is how healthy, because, and then my wife makes a great point about COVID-19. We've been cooking more at home in these stay-at-home situations, and cooking at home, it tends to be a little bit, we can make it healthier as opposed to say when we eat out. One reason I like this recipe was when we go to Mexican restaurants, you can tend to eat really bad. You load up on chips and you load up on rice and beans, big plates and big servings of steak or chicken or fish or whatever, and then you have a dessert afterwards. So eating at restaurants, and in general, any types of restaurants, we could overeat easily at a restaurant, whereas eating at home is we can measure that out a little bit more. That kind of goes back, I guess, to my childhood. I'd say eating out is great, but as a treat, as an occasional thing, not as a daily staple.
Tomas, we had a question about frozen veggies and if they're okay to use for the meal.
We haven't tried frozen vegetables, but I think they're worth a try. I would imagine they would cook pretty easily. We haven't tried it yet though, but yeah, go for it.
I imagine that they'll the de-thawing and they'll still be good. It's just, and then frozen definitely could be more convenient to get those at the store and lasting longer. Mm-hmm. So usually the vegetables are flash frozen, so they maintain the vitamins and minerals when they're frozen that way, and they're still have the good all those good nutrients. I think it's just a matter of taste and seeing how it comes out. Mm-hmm. But definitely, I would say they could be using this. They're still good.
Another question we had was, would you recommend oatmeal?
Absolutely.
My wife, that's one of her, and I'll let her describe that. Because
I love oatmeal. It's a staple for me. When I get tired of eating a bowl of oatmeal, I might just put a smaller bowl with just a little cinnamon and sugar and almond milk, and then have a different major meal. I like oatmeal because it's very flexible. It's very accommodating. So you can put different nuts in it. You can add fruit. Right now, peaches are wonderful. So cutting in some peaches into that oatmeal with a little bit of cinnamon and a touch of sugar kind of gives you the flavor of a peach cobbler without the fat. And I know my parents, they'll grind up some nuts and they make oatmeal every morning, and they put the ground nuts into the oatmeal, and that's filling for them.
Yeah, I think that's part. It could be, yeah, it's got good fiber, let's say. Yeah, again, a lot of these meals, we're trying to talk about the different whole foods and fruits and vegetables, and thinking about how they affect that oxidative process or the inflammation process to reduce those. And this is how we do it when we eat saturated fats and trans fats and high fat meals the high carb meals. Those add the stressors to our body, the inflammation to our body, and too much eating of those can lead to the type 2 diabetes and overweight, obesity, all of which stress the body, and all of which can have roles in the eventual poor health that could lead to Alzheimer's disease in the long run.
Okay, everyone, we are 5 minutes from the top of the hour. Let's maybe Tomas and his family can answer one more question, and then I will just show one more slide and tell you about next week's event, and let everyone get back to their normally scheduled lives. I do just want to say I apologize if we didn't get to your question. We've been trying our best, but we were flooded with questions. It was really a lot of fun. So maybe, Tomas, if you can answer one more, perhaps?
Yeah, let's see. There's one that just came across the screen about adding cilantro to this plate. And,
Yeah, cilantro is such a common spice used in Mexican dishes. So this recipe didn't have it in there. So I'm thankful that you thought to ask the question. And I think absolutely, yes, you can add cilantro.
and I guess if I can, on the printed out ones in general, what foods specifically nourish the brain? And I guess I would like to close with that one, because everything we talked about today in moderation and they have all of these different properties that are good nourishment for the brain. Well, what we talked about today can be used in different ways and in different types of preparations. As long as it's not deep fried, I wouldn't recommend deep frying. In general, if you deep fry something, it's not too good for you. But all the different types of food today could be nourishing. Our family, we try as much as possible to go for the whole foods and natural and prepared. If we use frozen foods or frozen vegetables, or the canned pinto beans as well. We've used those sometimes, but we've tried to prepare it and be as natural and whole and as possible. You want to close them? Thank you all for coming to our kitchen today. It's been a pleasure. I hope the video and the feed and the communication, you're able to hear us for the most part.
Tomas, I think you have to stop your video so they can see mine, perhaps. But hopefully everyone can see the slide up here. I just want to thank all of our sponsors and thank all of you for attending. We had a lot of fun tonight. This is our first one, but we're going to keep doing these throughout the month of June. I wanted to remind you that our next one is next Thursday, the 18th, and the topic is going to be exercise and the brain. And as I mentioned before, all of you are welcome to join our research study. You can join at any time you want because we live on the internet. You can visit our site and participate in our research at MindCrowd.org. So we hope to see you all here again next week on the 18th for Exercise in the Brain. Thanks so much for spending an hour with us tonight. Have a great night.